It's the, oh, there, I got my recording notice. Got it. There we go. It's been the thing of getting online for so many things these days. Past couple years, I guess it's really gone a little further than I guess we thought this would all go. But you know, the convenience is great. I get to see you folks in the Pittsburgh area, which is fabulous. And I am originally from Pittsburgh. I always have to say, I grew up in Penn Hills. I don't know if anybody else, Penn Hills, anyone, Monroeville, anybody hang out in my area? Not so much.
It's
all right.
15146. I know the zip because I used to run the teen center out there. And then
oh, wait. Penn Hills 15235. Come on now.
There you go. Okay, nice.
Sorry, I think that you might have been talking Monroeville with that one. I think
I was. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, I was.
That was it. That was Monroeville. Yeah. I do remember. I'm still down there a lot on weekends. And then, of course, we have our area in Cranberry Township, our office and everything down there. And anytime I do any of our supervisory skills series and things like that, well, anytime we have those down there, I'm always telling everyone, I'm going to teach it. I'm going to Pittsburgh. So we've been doing a series, and I've finally gotten back to being down there every couple of weeks and teaching our classes. So I still feel like I'm home when I get back down there. Now, Erie's not too far away, but I love to be in Erie or in Pittsburgh and talk to all you Pittsburgh folks, and we're looking so forward to getting so much more involved in the area. So having the opportunity to do this today, fabulous. And I love to talk about empathy. It's one of my leadership traits that anytime we're discussing leadership traits and trying to come up with what really makes a leader, if nobody adds in empathy, I always say, all right, I have a couple. Here's one, empathy, right? So we have to stick those things in there. And I can read the chat when you put something in the chat. So great, I'll just click it open and see if there's anything in there. Not a problem. So I'll get that off my screen too. All right, so what are we doing? We're going to motivate with empathy. And so we, of course, are going to be talking about motivation and how those two things relate, talking about empathy, talking about all the great things that we love to talk about in all our supervisory skills classes. So, now I didn't check sure my slides would advance. Oh, good. There you go. All right. So here's the thing. Empathy and perspective. Hopefully we are people that use this. This is our personality. We understand using empathy. We understand, I'm just going to get rid of this. There we go. We understand it really makes sense to get somebody else's perspective. I mean, how else are we going to communicate and not have the illusion of communication that we always seem to have, right? So these are things that we hope most people do, but I tell you what, really takes front and center for all of us, and we have to realize it is, let me see if I can just hit this button. No, I have to hit the arrows. What happens when you get promoted into a leadership role? Some of you may be newer to it. I bet all of you remember that when you said, I got promoted, okay, things are complicated now. This isn't like before. This is not about me doing a great job, because after all, I've been doing a great job. They would not have probably thought of promoting me unless that wasn't the case, right? I'm a hard worker. I do all sorts of hard work, and people like me, right? And we could throw a like in there. It's not the most important part, but it's a very good part. So now things are so complicated because it's more about the people I manage. And I don't know how many of you love the TED Talks like I do. And if you ran into Simon Sinek during any of your looking at any TED Talks, this is a great quote among many of his. Leadership isn't about taking charge. It's about taking care of the people in our charge. So, it's about them. How are they doing? What's happening with them? How can I create the environment where they can excel? Because after all, that's what you need. You need your people to excel. And so we want to talk about motivation and how empathy really plays a part in there. Now, sometimes you might think, all right, I'm a little overwhelmed now, and it might go to this. Well, congratulations on your new job and that short window of time before you just start crying in the bathroom again. Okay, because it gets rough. We know it's rough. And I was teaching a supervisory skills class where we have the 2 days in a row. And at the end of the first day, I said, see you all tomorrow. This was out in our in the regions, like I do in Pittsburgh, 2 days in a row. And the one person, as she was going out the door, said, no, you might not see me tomorrow. It depends on if McDonald's is hiring. Because she just, after hearing the first day of class and being with other people that have been in their lead role for a little bit, and she was newer, she just said, I don't know, I'm really overwhelmed by what I'm getting into here. We said, no, it'll be okay. So she doesn't work for McDonald's. She still works for the company. And she realized, yes, it is going to be a little rough, but if we put all these great tools that we know together, just, apply them where needed. It's we know this stuff. It's just, where do we apply them? How do we apply them? Right. So luckily she stuck it out, and she just went back to saying, okay, I'll just stick with, it's complicated and I want to understand a lot more about it. So let's get to some myths that we have about using empathy, because empathy sounds really like you're a little too sweet and nice, and we're holding hands and singing all the time. And it doesn't go that crazy. McGregor, I don't know how much you've heard about McGregor. Back in the 50s and 60s, right? He had talked about these management theories. So McGregor's theory X manager and McGregor's theory Y manager was what he described. And you see up there, it shows you that a Y theory trait would be much more of a person who does empower and develop their people. And they have, a great democratic management style, get input, give input. And their basis is that they believe that people want to work, so they treat them accordingly. A Theory X manager, the other side. And they feel that employees refuse to work, and it's their job to make them work. So they have to be autocratic, and they have to just take control of everybody. Well, okay. We're not saying that you can only be one or the other, because actually it's negative when you're just one or the other. If you're all Theory X, I'm sure you can see where the negative comes in, right? You're overbearing, and you don't get input. You don't get involved with caring what your employees want or need. You're like, hey, do the job. I decided, go do it. A Y theory manager sounds much nicer, right? And they empower and develop their people. You can go too far that way, right? You can be so democratic that you don't make good decisions because you're waiting for everybody's opinion, and you want the decision to make everybody happy, and that's not going to happen. So an extreme Y theory manager, no good. They're not really moving the place along. An extreme X theory, well, yeah, they're moving things along, but it's rough. Okay. So what did McGregor say? Well, there's a good situational manager, and makes sense. You manage per the situation. What do you need for each situation? But you'd think that was like right in the middle, like a 50-50, but it's not. It is more Y theory. He said the best managers seem to be more Y theory, and they can do X theory things, though, as needed. And if you save those more controlling, more direct, in your face kind of management situations for when they're really, really needed, then they do have a lot of effect. And people go, hey, Lisa is really serious today, and she's not getting input, and she's not allowing for much of anything. This is serious. Let's just do what she says. And, and it is effective that way, because there are times, all of we need to pull some X out of there. But if you could be Y theory most of the time and everything's going pretty nicely, that's a great, theory to use. And a Y theory manager is much more likely to have that empathy trait and be able to utilize that to really motivate employees. Another myth that we can get to is, we talk about feminine and masculine communication traits. So you communicate in a more feminine manner, you communicate in a more masculine manner. And, we don't say, men and women, because men can have female traits, women can have male traits, and, all the in between. So the problem is a lot of leaders might say, well, that's a more feminine communication trait. And, I just don't have that one. That's just not me. So it won't be useful to me. I'm not going to be doing things like that, caring and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, empathy. So here's another thought. And people say this all the time in class because they really label an employee. I have two types of employees. I have the motivated ones and the not motivated ones. And no matter what I do, empathy has nothing to do with that. They are or they aren't. And I just deal with the ones that aren't. Maybe they'll leave. I don't know. We don't say that lately, but in I don't know, more normal times, we would say, well, maybe they'll leave, or maybe we'll just, they'll work their way out of here, and I'll get my next really motivated, fabulous employee in here because it's in them. They show up that way. Those are the ones we want. And we know we get them. It's a great thing. But, we need to provide those environments. So when we're talking about the motivated and not motivated, we know that, this term where we say employees are engaged, disengaged, or actively disengaged. So, how much motivation do we have to do here? What are we talking about here? Is this employee is already highly engaged, so we're okay with them. This employee, disengaged, we got to keep working on that motivation for them. And then we have a group that are actively disengaged. Now, you see 3 percentages across the bottom of your screen. And where do you think they apply? Do you think the highly engaged percentage, according to this Gallup survey, do you think that's 17%, the 29, or the 54? Do you think actively disengaged? Same thing. Where would you apply them? Feel free to say it, type it in. Where do you think that goes? If you were going to line them up. Come on, I know someone's going to say. No? You don't want to guess? Somebody guess. Throw one out there. Highly engaged. What are you hoping for? 17%, 29%, or 54%?
Oh, that's 17%.
29.
You feel that's low.
I'm going higher, Chuck. I'm going 29.
29 on highly engaged?
Yeah.
Let's see. I have a 54. I'm not sure who you think is 54. The highly engaged, I guess, right? So that's a good, Jada, type that one in. All right. Yes, highly. Okay. Well, we are really hoping for the best there. And the poll, I don't know if we do 2022, I don't know how much this might have changed, but we find, the Gallup survey found that we had 29% highly engaged, 54 in the middle. So the majority are in the middle, and the 17% are actively disengaged. And then really, when we define these things, 29% highly engaged, those are our favorite employees. They're thinking, they're caring, they're giving us input. We don't have to drag it out of them. They have ideas, they are interested in improvements and success. And I bet they are the ones that showed up pretty self-motivated to start with. And then everything at work and the work environment, it all works for them. Now here's more than half of us that are disengaged. And you're there, you do what you need to do. You're a good person. You're not going to cheat or steal, as in stealing time or production, things like that, from the company. I mean, you do what you need to do, and then you go home. It's good, right? Yeah, 54%, right? So actively disengaged. I mean, it goes pretty far with the actively disengaged. I mean, they are really trying to do as little as possible, whatever they can just squeak by. And this group is usually, spending a lot of their time at work on like monster.com or whatever those whatever the websites are that they're looking for jobs or answering their emails that they got back from other things they sent out. They're looking and they can't wait for the opportunity to come up. In the meantime, they'll hang out here. What else, what else are they going to do? So we certainly are interested in moving this people at least up disengaged, right? Actively disengaged. We want to at least get them into disengaged category. We'd like to get so many of these disengaged up into highly engaged. So how much motivation? Well, it probably takes a lot. It takes a lot. It's a consistent thing. Oh, what's the quote? It's Zig Ziglar. He says, motivation or bathing. We suggest doing it daily. And same with motivation. It's important. Well, if you don't do it daily, you might find some things aren't going your way. So we want to think about motivating, how we can do it, and how we're going to utilize some empathy. Noah is our great barista, right? And I, again, stole this thought and this story from Simon Sinek. And Simon says that he was, doing presentations in Las Vegas, and he goes to get coffee at the coffee bar, and Noah's working there. He said Noah was fabulous. Personality, appreciative, not overly gushy, just exactly who you would want waiting on you. That's all there was to it. And he said, I had to talk to him about it. I had to go, no, what the heck makes you such the just ideal person that I can't wait to come and get my coffee from you? And Noah, of course, said something along the lines that, we're all gonna, what I'm gonna say. He said, well, actually he had 2 jobs at 2 different casinos in their coffee shops. And he said, this place is where he loves to be. He still keeps the other job though, because indeed he does get money when he goes to work there, but it's not the job that he cares for. And it's not the job that he wants to keep very long term. Great. Simon says, yeah, well, okay, why? And he said, really, the big thing is that they care here. That's all there is to it. They care. You can tell they care. They ask you questions like they care. They react to you like they care. And they care about me not because I do the job, because of course I do the job really nicely, but they care about the person I am who does the job. They, nobody probes into personal stories and things like that, but they will ask, how's this? How's that? If an employee offers information about a basketball game that their kid's going to be in that night or something, well, the next day when you see them, you'll go, hey, how'd the game go? This is the interaction that, of course, we're working towards with our employees that means so much. And he said, they do that here. They've always done that here. From day one, they have. He said, I go to the other place, we talk to each other, the employees talk to each other, and our goal is stay under the radar, right? Do not end up having to talk to any of the bosses. Avoid them when you can. Don't go above and beyond because you'll just get noticed. Certainly don't go below because you'll really get noticed. Just stay under the radar. And imagine a group full of employees that that's their goal. It's just not be noticed, not be recognized, do the work and go home. And what a difference, that makes with your employees. And where's it coming from? He said, management. Of course, it's management. It's always management. So Noah, a very good example of caring. He said the other thing they really cared about and understood his plight was that he still needed to have that other job to have enough of the money that he needed just to get by. And so they really worked well with him, knowing he had another job. And sometimes, well, many times at the other place, they weren't so helpful about his scheduling, but they were very helpful with him here so that he could schedule and still be able to meet the schedule at the other job. That's how much understanding and empathy they showed towards him. And they said, and of course, we don't want to lose you here. You're a great employee. So let's get on to another myth that we would have, and it would be that we would have to get too personal with people, right? What am I going to do? I have to get a couch installed in my office. Half the time I wish the chair wasn't in there because people sit in there and just go on and on about things, right? So no, we don't have to get on the couch. We don't have to go, well, that's too personal. That's not what work is about. We know that the person themselves is who's actually doing the job for us. And we really have to view everyone as that very individual person they are. Because once you figure, okay, empathy works on everybody, and the way I motivate works on everybody, then, we can be at a loss. We could try the same things on everyone that works here in the same job and assume this is the way to go. But we have to know individuals are individuals. How do we show our empathy? How do we use that with motivation? Because there's different versions of empathy that we'll talk about here shortly. So yes, personal, but not too personal. And no, we don't need to have a whole psychiatry interaction with everybody. And how long does that take anyway? I have that kind of time. Listen to every employee, get to know anything and everything about every employee. And you know what I'm going to say on that one. It's how you spend your time that really matters. You do have time. We all have the 24 hours. Some of you might be working all 24 of those, or it feels like it, but we have those hours that we're at work. We all have them. Now, what do we do with that amount of time? And of course, it's about time management, what you believe is important, what benefits you get from utilizing your time in what way, right? That's the obvious time management discussion that everybody has. And here's a statement that you want to really think about avoiding, is saying to an employee, I don't have time, right? If they come to talk to you about one thing or another, and you truly are busy, you are right in the middle of this, that, the other, you have a deadline, you're heading to a meeting in 3 minutes, right? But is your answer really, I don't have time? The better answer is something along the lines of, I am heading to a meeting in 3 minutes. I would love to hear what you have to say. Can it wait? Whatever, some version of that. But realize that when the words come out of your mouth, I don't have time, they don't come out maybe as innocently as you may mean them at the moment. I don't have time. I don't want to. That's what that equates to. I don't have time. Truly, right now, I don't want to. I might have another reason because of that meeting. So right now, I don't want to talk to you. I have to get there. But if it comes out a lot and you don't explain, I have to get there. So right now, I can't talk to you. Can we talk later? Can you meet me after the meeting? Can I see you first thing tomorrow morning? Add some of that in instead of I don't have time. But think about how many times you say that. Not just to an employee, all kinds of times we say, I don't have time.
Hey,
And
Lisa,
yes.
I don't want to interrupt, but at the same time, depending on what you're feeling too, I've done the walk with me. Like,
There you
let's
go.
chat, walk with me. And sometimes
Perfect.
it's that quick of a conversation anyway. So now you're not trying to bring them back. You're just, I'm
Oh,
walking to a meeting. Can you walk with me?
great. So they realize you're not cutting them off,
That's
but
right.
it's a real thing.
Sorry.
You do
I
have
love
something else
that.
to
I
do.
love walking meetings.
Yeah, walk with me. And that's so pulling your person in instead of pushing them away, and yet still getting done what you need done, right? And so, yes, feel free to interrupt me. I mean, I'll go on. So just anybody say, hang on, Lise, let me throw this in. That's why I like to see everybody, because then sometimes I see like a thought shows up on your face. So then I go, hey, did you want to add something in there? But so you have to add them in. So yes, I do want you to remember I don't have time often equals in somebody's perception, you don't want to. So we want to avoid that and show the understanding. All right, so another big myth, and we can't forget this one. Well, I praise my employees, so that should do it. That does it, right? Praise is motivating. It is. It surely is. Is it enough? How do you praise people? How do you praise Joe versus praising Bill? right? So this whole thing about praise is a great thing. And maybe I can get someone to go ahead and mention, what's the common version of praise? What's our whole, and kind of, you see the picture there, but what's the common way that we praise people? You know, what does everybody usually say? God, praise me. Oh, Lisa, you're doing a good job. Right? I mean, don't we do that? Or we just go, oh, good job, thanks. Right? Walking by somebody, hey, good job. How about everybody on the shift? Hey, you guys had a good night tonight, thanks. And then you go, there you go. I praise people. I'm a nice person. I care. I pay attention. This is all good. Okay. Yes, it's very nice. And don't stop doing that. I mean, we would want you to stop praising overall, but it's only good if you do the individual praise, okay, all along the line. And you can throw that group stuff in. Good job, the general stuff. Hey, we all had a good week. You can throw that in as long as you are on a regular basis praising like this and using the 4 musts of praise. So you must have this, okay? And I am going to tell you, public, we can have wiggle room on that one, but personal, okay? When you praise somebody, make it very specific to them and use their name. Just, even if you walk right up to them, you're looking them right in the eyes, and of course you're talking to them, and you go, I'm making it personal, it's right to you. Say the person's name. There was, long story short, a person that owned a company called everybody chief. And sadly, they went through the trouble of purchasing them work shirts that had their names right here, right? So if the owner walked up to you and couldn't remember your name, because there were probably several employees, it was really easy to just read your name and then use your name, but he never did. He called everybody chief. Hey, chief, what's going on, chief? Most likely thinking that was pleasant, and that's a fun, and yo, chief. People like nicknames. Same for everybody all the time, and never reading anybody's name. So we're doing a training there, and we're talking about praise, and we say about using the name, and some of the people in the class go, oh yeah, they know our name. Everybody's got the same name around here. It's chief, right? And we pretended we didn't, because we saw this in action. We were doing a tour, and the owner was doing that when we were with them and walking around calling everybody chief. So then we're like, oh, what do you mean? And yeah, it calls everybody chief, oh, this, that, and they were kind of making a joke about it. And the one person said, I don't think it's funny at all. Nope, don't think it's funny. He can't respect us enough to read our names and use our name every once in a while. Come on, every once in a while. And, he was taking it as a sign of not respecting him and not understanding that he would like to be treated as a person with a name, Bill, right? And, again, I don't know what the owner's motivation or where it was really coming from in him. The important part is to know it was perceived not very positively. And it's very easy to take care of. Use the person's name. People just want to hear their names. And so if you say, I don't know, in this picture, that can be Sue. Sue, I wanted to thank you so much for, and then number 2 is be specific, A, B, C, or just A, it's one thing. Hey, thanks for this. This is like a restaurant. Thanks for handling that spill, right away. I could have gotten, the busser to do it, but you handled it right away. I always love when people take initiative like that. Thanks. And then just, you're done, right? Hopefully it's timely after she was done cleaning up the spill. The public part may not be what you're thinking. It's not like at the meeting when you go, okay, now that everybody's here, I want to talk about a thing Sue did. And I know that we might do that in meetings, and it's okay. And, usually people go, oh, no, don't, yeah, it's all right. Thanks. And I don't know that it's false modesty. I really think that is uncomfortable for most people for you to call them out in a positive way in front of everybody else. I mean, I hope everyone knows that that you would never call them out negatively in front of everyone. But the positive thing sometimes is a little, and but the public that we're talking about is, like in our picture we're looking at, say there's, 2 other employees that are right behind the counter right there, or another employee that's, waiting on somebody, and they're just within earshot. And so, when you talk to one employee, there's probably other employees within earshot. And that's a great thing. They can hear you. Why shouldn't they? You're appreciative. You care. Hey, you're paying attention to details. These are all things that all the employees can pick up and get that feel for you being that appreciative, understanding boss, and caring and paying attention. And maybe you pay attention to the things that don't go right. So you're kind of showing everyone, I'm trying to pay attention here. And I might even notice the problems with you that has me not walking over and doing this praise with you today, right? So how often do you praise? When do you pray? When it's needed, when it's necessary. You don't ever want to be artificial about it. You don't want to make it just a, just like a habit, like, okay, thanks. Oh, I better praise today. Thanks. Right? It's really, we want it to be realistic, and good leaders, another fabulous trait of good leaders, authentic. Like somehow you're authentic. You can't say, I'm going to be authentic. You just are, right? And that's what employees are looking for. So you can ruin that authenticity by trying to put the fake praise on because you're supposed to. So yeah, I can't say enough about using praise as a way to motivate and understanding individuals, right? And knowing what works for one and what works for another, when to praise, how often. So if we want to do, like everybody likes to do, let's give a definition of empathy. And it is very powerful. So remember, use your powers for good. It's like a superhero thing, right? The good superheroes, they use their powers for good. And you in a lead role have a lot of power as a leader, and how you utilize empathy can really work to everybody's benefit. So what is empathy? Is your ability to recognize emotions in others. And it helps us understand other people's perspectives on a situation, right? Good communication, what is it? Trying to get the other person's perspective. How do you do that? Talk, listen. So empathy, it's definitely getting perspective. It then, best part, enables us to use that insight to improve someone else's mood. So I really understand where you're coming from. How about I say this? How about we do this? How about I help you with that? Wow, the boss listened, they understood, they know where I'm coming from. They don't judge me on it, because we'll talk about judging in a second, just in a few seconds here. So you support your employees through challenging situations. Well, who doesn't run into that? What's a challenging situation? Well, an employee that more or less you're having a discussion. I combined words that don't belong combined. You're having a discipline type discussion. Discipline and discussion don't go together. A discipline type discussion with them. And so it's challenging for you to have that, I'm sure, many of us. And it's certainly challenging for an employee to be in that situation. And I'm not just talking write-ups and things like that. It's a discussion about something that needs improved, why, what's going on, all that stuff. And we call that discipline without punishment. Very, very important. So we need to improve someone else's mood with this understanding, this empathy that we're utilizing. We're going to communicate to them and make sense to them, because they have a perspective now that we understand. And so now in the end, our communication was effective on both sides. And that's what we need. How else do you get through to someone? How else do you have that great relationship? Because after all, leading people is the relationship you have with them, right? Individual relationships. Now, and down on the bottom here, it says, the psychologists, Daniel Goleman and Paul Ekman, great read about empathy, and they say, okay, there's 3 components, and almost like 3 different kinds of empathy, or they all go together. It's just 3 components. So number 1, cognitive. So in other words, I understand. So I have to understand. How am I going to do that? Ask questions, listen, all those great things of trying to get your perspective. I have to go and look at it your way. And I only know what your way is if I get enough information out of you. So, ask a lot of questions. Well, explain that. What about that? Well, how do you feel about that? Well, why did that happen? Why did that, promote you saying or doing, that? You have to see where they're coming from, and asking enough questions, the only way you're going to get there. The second component is an emotional component. So in other words, you feel what they're feeling. And this isn't always the case. All these 3 things don't always happen. Because you might say, I know we have a discipline video, and there's a girl who her mom is watching her child, and she's a nurse. And at work, she's on the phone. She has one of the things in her ear, and she's talking to her mom. Yeah, so how's everything? And how's Johnny today? And, whatever may be going on. And her boss is like, you can't do that. I mean, you're on the phone during work. You can't do this. So it becomes tense between them because, it doesn't get taken care of on the first discussion. It goes on. So now they have to sit down and have really the right kind of discussion. And the boss has to ask, what's going on? Like what is it about, needing to discuss that? And the nurse's answer is, I just don't feel comfortable with my mom watching my child. Now, if somebody would say that to me, if I wanted to really just give my opinion, I'd go, are you kidding me? I'd have been the happiest person on earth if I knew that when I went back to work, my child was with my mom every day. How could that worry you? That's ridiculous, right? And probably a lot of us are thinking that. So here's the thing. I don't know about your mom. I don't know what makes you feel that way, but I ask you and you're telling me that is how you feel. So I have to understand you feel that way. So now sometimes you can have that same emotional component and go, I do understand how you feel. I think of a situation where I feel that way too. So it's either way on that, but it's understanding, also understanding there's emotion with this person. She worried. That's an emotion. It didn't have anything to do with if she was giving shots to the patient. Then is there compassion? And so the compassionate part is you're taking action. So I'm going to understand how you feel. I get your perspective, and I can act on that by doing something that'll help you, that'll ease that problem, that'll change it, that'll at least, I don't know. You have to take action. You're acting on what you understand now from this person. And it could be a very small action, or it could be a big change, whatever it may be, right? Now, I'd like you to listen to Brene Brown explain this instead of just hearing me all the time, because the difference between empathy and sympathy, because we go, well, I can have sympathy. I'm sympathetic. We send sympathy cards and things, but here's a difference.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you can climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." Yeah. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, "I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me." Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
So using our empathy, listening, understanding, working together, right? She mentioned 4 attributes of empathy, pretty much reflecting the 3 that the psychiatrist had talked about. And she said that Teresa Wiseman, who she was reading about empathy and understanding empathy through her, is that it's first of all perspective taking, and we talked about that. Talk, ask questions, understand where they're coming from. She adds another specific detail to that, though, that I really like, and it's the staying out of judgment. Like I was saying, I don't understand that you worry about your mom watching. Are you kidding me? I can't judge. I just have to know that is your emotion. And I recognize you have that emotion, and it's your emotion. Now, if I can understand that emotion too, and something that kind of relates to it, it helps me even more to work with you and help to motivate you past that. And so, of course, it's just all about the communication between you and employees. And one of the things that people say mostly about motivation, well, here's another thing, actually. Well, attributes of motivation is what I call this, not just empathy. Here's the thing about motivation. Some people need it more than others, right? And there's different motivational categories that you may find that your employees fall into. That they are motivated by achievement and success that they can get from work. So they want you to challenge them, and they want maybe competition type things and reward type things in the workplace. Some people really frown upon rewards. Rewards, I don't know, we're getting paid, that kind of thing. Because so many different managers that come to classes, they all have their own perspectives too. But then they say, yeah, I feel this way, but I have employees that feel that way. And if it works for them, I do it. I try to, right? You have an employee that likes to really talk and interact a lot. I mean, you throw me in that category. If they stuck me in some room on days that I'm not teaching, I would hate that, right? I'm in an open area where there's a couple other people and my boss, and, we talk back and forth and we affiliate with each other to, keep ourselves going. I'm very motivated by that, and certainly by the people in the class, which is why I have to get over this "if I can't see you" thing. I'll deal with it. Esteem. Some people were motivated by that. You just need to keep doing what? Making sure the praise is there as much as they seem to need it, and seeing that it works for them because you understand them. You've listened. Power, autonomy, security, equity, right? I mean, we could go through each one of these, but you get it. Everybody's motivated by something different. And to understand and care about them is right at the top. There's a survey that we always talk about where bosses answer the survey. Out of a list of 10, they put that, what are your employees motivated by? And the bosses said, my employees are motivated by money and promotions, number 2. Okay. The employees, given the same survey, what motivates you, employee with no lead role? And their out of the list of 10, they picked out appreciation, number 1. Number 2, feeling in on things. Number 3, an understanding attitude. They didn't put money on there till 5. Now, we all know we want money and we want more money. That's a given. But what really motivates them, they chose out of the list. And it started with appreciation, understanding attitude, the feeling in on things, talking, input, caring, interacting. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been reading all kinds of stuff and listening to TED Talks and over the past couple years. And, you know, there's this big thing about the Great Resignation and all these things going on. And what do most of those, the people talk about and remind all of us about, and they say, this is what employees want. Every one of these pretty much comes back to the environment, the understanding, the caring, the interaction, the taking input, the praise and appreciation to help with everybody's feelings of stress, right? Because if there's always stress, but I mean, who isn't stressed? And it's had its effect on all of us and into the workplace. So if we go back to the base of understanding, listening, and really that's empathy, then definitely believe this is the basis for really being able to motivate your workforce and keep them working in your business and for you, and wanting to succeed as part of your team, and then always saying, man, I have a good boss. Yeah, I do. And I certainly believe it comes from that. So I enjoyed certainly getting the chance to talk to all of you. And I hope to see you all soon. Classes, something. You want to ask some stuff, talk about anything, give me your thoughts on any of it? I tried to be done. 2 minutes, hurry up, 2 minutes.
Anybody have any questions for Lisa before we end our session?
Lisa, this was great. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. I have to go eat lunch now.
I know. And I know. Yeah. We haven't eaten it either, if it makes you feel better.
Yeah. I made sure I brought lunch, so I'd have it.
Awesome. Well, this session is recorded. If anybody would like it, we can always send it out to all the attendees here today. If anybody has follow-up questions for Lisa as well, you can feel free to email her, or we can provide you with her contact information if that's okay.
Yeah. There's my email up on the screen for your happy, motivated employees.
Okay. Well, we are just 30 seconds shy of 1 p.m., which is perfect timing. So everyone, thank you so much for being here on our I keep doing that, March Lunchbox session.
No, that's what the March one is from now on. It's the Munch session. Yes.
Great. If, like I said, if anybody has any questions, you know where to find Lisa. And until then, we will see you next time, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Appreciate it.